first. I'm Nichelle Poston along with Shirley Min and Mark Eichman. What are the best ingredients to help small business grow? A small business update this week.
What does it take to keep the lights on around the region? A Teach Me segment that takes you to the top.
And a boat builder who took a simple kit and turned it into a masterpiece. All that, plus we hear from the Selbyville Swamp Monster. It's all on First, your public media news magazine, and it starts now.
Growing small businesses in Delaware continues to be a top priority for the state. Recently, the state hosted its annual Governor's Entrepreneurial and Small Business Conference. In Wilmington, resources are constantly made available for such businesses to stay afloat. And in this week's First Look, we'll visit two local businesses that jumped on the opportunity to add to the local economy.
I have over 70 kinds of tea.
And you can find that variety inside this shop on the corner of 9th and Tatnall Streets in Wilmington, an area the city is focused on revitalizing. But outside of that, the owner, Tanisha Lomax, is focused on something new and different with levity.
Levity is based on the idea of an American tea because that doesn't exist. I think that most other cultures in the world have a tea culture, but America does not, except for maybe sweet tea in the South and a few other very targeted things, but nothing is our American tea culture. So that's kind of what this whole venture is about.
According to Lomax, tea is the second most consumed beverage in the world. Always business-minded and a fan of the beverage, she decided to set up shop that just so happened to be in the area she enjoyed visiting as a child.
Business has been good. It's been steady. It's been growing. It's doing well. We won Best of Delaware this year, so that's a good thing. And we still have the partnership with the Hotel DuPont and working on new corporate partnerships coming up real soon.
Small businesses like Levity is what the city is trying to attract to fill up vacancies along the downtown district.
Small business is important because it produces local jobs here in the city.
Jeff Flynn, director of the city's Economic Development Office, tells me his department sees a wide range of people regarding small businesses, some with ideas and plans of starting a business but no funding. Others may already be in business but experiencing some type of challenge. Whatever the case, the office offers a number of resources for small businesses to ensure entrepreneurs stay open. Another goal is to promote growth in the city, which is considered one of the top places to start a business.
I think that we have lower barriers to entry here in Wilmington, and we have access to government, and we definitely, compared to Philadelphia and New York City, we have lower costs of doing business. So I think those are advantages.
Fusion Taster's Choice, Delaware's first olive oil and balsamic vinegar store, took advantage of the opportunity of starting a small business. The idea came from sampling olive oil and comparing the one purchased from a specialty store to a supermarket brand.
It just didn't taste good. So I said, oh, let me do some research. First of all, let me find a store here in Delaware that sells the same thing. Did my research, they didn't exist.
That was all the motivation needed to open this store. But as the owner learned, operating a small business is not easy.
Just being a small business owner, it is extremely hard. You don't have that opportunity to hit the floor running. It takes money to make money, and that's the reality.
The good news is, as Fusion Taster's Choice approaches its 2-year anniversary, the owner says the business is doing well, even though she continues to wear many hats.
So you become the chief, the engineer, the CFO, the marketing director, the sales force, all of those titles, I am that. Slice me and dice me.
I always tell people this is my first rodeo, so I'm learning as I go. And I've had a ton of support, especially from my regular customers.
Meanwhile, city officials continue to encourage people with ideas and a plan to start up a business or seek help if things become a bit too challenging. In fact, there are programs designed to walk people through the basics of small business. Levity and Fusions are examples of what the city would like to attract.
Come to this office and we'll tell you what we think is the best way for you to get your idea on the paper, and maybe we'll set you up with a consultant to get there.
For those of you interested in starting a small business, there's a program called the Small Business Success Series, which consists of classes held over a 9-month period, and officials are currently taking applications for it. Just call the city's Economic Development Office for more details.
So the city's Economic Development Office, they offer a number of resources, even if you don't actually have a business?
That's right, Shirley. There's help even if you just have an idea or if you're a business owner experiencing some type of issue. Flynn tells me one of the greatest resources, though, would be the technical guidance his office offers, thanks to partnerships with the University of Delaware and the state, allowing people pretty much to consult with business experts.
Okay, thank you so much, Nichelle, and you can follow our reporting of Delaware small businesses on your home for daily Delaware news, newsworks.org/Delaware. Coming up, Legos are for building things, and it doesn't hurt if you learn something in the process. Check out our first experience. Also, check out what it takes to be a utility worker. That's ahead in our Teach Me segment.
When you think of dangerous, demanding jobs, what comes to mind? Police officer, firefighter? How about utility worker? Avi Wolfman-Arendt can shed some light on that in our October Teach Me segment from the Delaware Education Desk. So Avi, just how dangerous is this job? How did these guys learn to do it safely?
Hey Mark, there may not be primetime TV shows about linemen, but according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the folks who install and repair electrical lines are actually more likely to die on the job than cops, firemen, and even construction workers. That's one of the many things I learned when I spent the day at Delmarva Power headquarters in Newark for this month's installment of Teach Me. The path to becoming a Delmarva utility lineman begins here at the company's training yard. More specifically, it begins at the base of a long wooden pole. So I am getting suited up, and I am basically learning the fundamentals of pole climbing, and this is exactly what someone who is just starting out attempting to be a Delmarva Power lineman would be doing. Today I'll be going through the first part of a 2-day test known as the pre-qualification exercise. It's essentially pole climbing 101, and every candidate has to pass it. Sounds like a formality, but it really isn't. About 70% of applicants don't make it through.
We've had that happen a lot where, they're climbing well, they're doing a great job, their confidence level is really high, and then they have that one fall, and then everything changes.
Jeff Ziemba is Delmarva's distribution supervisor and my climbing guide for the day. He's seen a lot of tough guys come and go, defeated by the wooden pole. But before he can teach me how to climb it, first we've got to make sure it's safe.
Before we climb anything, we want to make sure that we inspect this pole.
In the training yard and in the real world, workers have to hammer at every pole to make sure it's still structurally sound. After that's done, Ziemba introduces me to my equipment.
These are our gaffs. This is what's going to basically climb us up the pole. We look at this as a vehicle to get to where we need to be. Obviously, the problem isn't here, the problem is up there.
When a utility worker climbs a pole to fix a problem, the only thing keeping him from falling are the gaffs, these steely little spikes you strap to your boots.
As you can see, when putting that gaff in the pole, we want to maintain a 30-degree angle from our gaff to the pole. Once we start jeopardizing that 30-degree, you can actually see where that gaff starts to pop out.
Yep.
And when that pops out, we come down.
There's no parachute, no safety net, and although today I'll be attached via carabiner to a backup wire, in the field there's not even that. It sounds scary, but doable. And when I watch a couple of the veteran climbers demonstrate, it kind of looks easy. I'm feeling, I gotta say, pretty confident as I ready myself for the Virgin Voyage. Okay, first time is never easy. Just had to feel things out a little bit. Okay, so this is kind of hard. For the next 10 minutes, I complete a series of pathetically slow climbs, never getting more than about 5 feet from the blessed ground. When I'm not nervously deciding whether to take my next step, I'm hugging the pole like a close relative.
One of our obstacles that we have to get our candidates over is the first thing that they want to do is they want to wrap their arms far around that pole.
Eventually, I do get the hang of it, and I start to approach a white line on the pole about 10 feet off the ground.
Where you're at right now is a big transition period for us as far as instructors, because right there is where the human brain starts to realize, if I fall now, I could really hurt myself.
This is the point, Ziemba says, where many turn back. But not me. I climb upward, grimacing, panting. I make it about 25 feet up the pole. Okay, so it doesn't look impressive, but I'm satisfied and really tired.
That's tough. That's really tough.
After this 2-day intro, applicants have to complete an 8-week training course. Then they spend another 4.5 years apprenticing on a crew before they finally get to scale real-world utility poles. But the biggest hurdle is still here, where applicants must face the pole and decide if they've got what it takes to hang in this high-flying profession.
Because if they can't get over that hump, they're just not going to be successful. They may have the physical body and presence to do that, but if they can't overcome that mentality, you know what I mean, of the fear itself, then they're not going to make it.
Yes, for the record, I was very, very sore the next day. That's a really tough job, Mark.
And is that the most surprising thing about this work, that the physicality it takes?
Absolutely. I mean, you just got to remember, I was only climbing up and down the pole. If you're doing the job, you have to fix things when you're up there, usually in bad weather, usually hanging from a pole with, spikes in your shoes. I mean, I talked to one guy, Jeff Ziemba, you saw him in the video. He said after Hurricane Sandy, he worked about 16 hours a day for a month straight.
So it's not just physical toughness too, kind of a mental endurance you have to make to get this job done.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. You have to be constantly aware of dangers up there. You're near live electrical wire. It takes really intense focus.
Is anything else kind of stand out to you about this adventure, about what this job takes that maybe people don't really realize?
Well, one thing that does stand out is that when we didn't show you that they do these things called tailgates before every job, where they kind of get together and discuss all the hazards associated with a particular job. And one thing they said is kind of funny, which is that when the power's out, a lot of customers will call angrily saying, "Why are these guys standing around?
They're not doing their job."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why aren't you fixing anything? And it just kind of goes to show how misunderstood this job is. This is not as easy as just flipping the light switch back on.
Absolutely. He is Avi Wolfman-Arent. His day job is not climbing on poles to keep the lights on, and we appreciate that. We also appreciate his education reports, which can be read at newsworks.org/Delaware. You can listen to them on WHYY FM 90.9.
First can always be found online at WHYY.org/first. Past shows are there as well. You should also sign up for our newsletter so you can be the first to know what WHYY is doing in Delaware.
Warren Rosenkrantz retired a little over 6 years ago. He was always handy and found that he was pretty good at building boats created from a kit. First contributor Karen Smiles introduces us to the Arden resident who's expanded his boat building skills well beyond that first kit.
I was born in Long Island, New York. When I was 4, I moved to upstate with my parents and right to a small farm on the Susquehanna River. My father originally had worked on boats at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and when we moved up there, he always loved the water, so we built boats there. He had a shop similar to this. We made cedar rowboats, and they were a beautiful boat. We would rent them out, and for the fishermen that would come up to visit the little town that I lived in. So it was a very interesting beginning.
Wood has been used for boat making since the earliest of times, and up until about the middle of the 19th century, almost all boats were primarily made of wood. And just like most crafts from the past, the art of boat making is making a comeback all across the country, and right here in the quaint village of Arden.
From the early days, they used oak and they used all kinds of different woods, and they make the seams so tight that the water cannot get in through the seams. I make canoes and kayaks, and the canoes and kayaks are they're about the same size, except the components to them are totally different. The cedar strip boats that I make probably take about 3 months to make one boat. This is a single-person kayak. The difference between a kayak and a canoe is that the kayak actually has a deck on it that, if something should happen, the water comes in, it's going to go wash off the edges of the boat. This boat, the cedar wood itself, even though it's very soft, is extremely light. One of the things we need to pay attention to when you make a kayak is how light it is. Kayak people like to have very light kayaks. This boat already has a fiberglass coating on it, and when you put fiberglass on almost any kind of wood, it becomes totally transparent. So the beauty of the wood will come through. To do the plywood boats, normally it takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks of working on it, about maybe 4 hours a day. Canoes, we use all marine plywood, very thin, 3 or 4 millimeters thick. It's from a wholesaler in Maryland. I fiberglass both sides of the sheets that I get, take it to a guy, he cuts it, and I bring them back up here to assemble. They're flat when I get them. And then I take 2 pieces, scarf them together, and then we'll start bending the plywood and torturing it. This is about, I'd say about 1/3 of the way done. It's in between epoxying, between our stitches along the chine lines, which are along the bottom of the boat. They hold it together to keep its form.
Tell us about the boat that we're looking at. I assume this one is fairly finished.
Right, this one is 99% done. All we have to do is add the foot pedals to it, the foot stops, so that when you paddle it, you have a little leverage. So that's what these 2 pieces on the side are, so you can brace your feet on it.
This boat is all ready to go?
This one's ready to go in the water.
Hey, you made it!
Yeah. Same day, all in one piece.
Great.
Ready?
If you'd like to learn Warren's techniques, he does hold workshops and even offers one-on-one lessons. Visit his website, ardenboat.com, to learn more. Karen's work can also be seen on Friday Arts. Check out their big 1-hour special Friday, November 6th on WHYY-TV.
For low-income residents, the struggle to find affordable housing can be daunting. In Sussex County, the median home price is around $240,000, which can make buying a home unattainable for many. That's why a group of Sussex County residents are taking matters and tools into their own hands to build each other's homes themselves. Amanda West swings a hammer like a pro, but she's not.
No, I'm not an outside girl. I like to stay inside, away from the bugs and everything else.
Over the past year, this inside girl has turned into a construction worker. She's working with Milford Housing Development Corporation to build her own home, along with the homes of 4 others.
It's a lot of work that goes into it. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
West and the others have all signed on to the Shared Build program. With the help of a construction manager, the group has pledged to build 5 homes, 1 for each member, over little more than a year, in addition to holding full-time jobs.
They are putting 65% of the labor into their homes, and they're working nights and weekends because they have their normal, 9-to-5 jobs. I mean, they have to afford a mortgage. And now they're putting in work on Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays, and they don't have a day off.
They've framed walls, installed shingles, and invested lots of sweat into their new homes.
The average sweat equity that our families are seeing is close to $35,000. It's a full-time wage for a year. Most of our families are making less than $35,000. And that's what they're doing by building their home part-time. The program is for families making 80% and below median income. And there's an emphasis on those making less than 50% of median income. Our program has served about 55% of the clients that have been under 50% of median income.
The program is funded through a rural development grant from the Department of Agriculture. Over the past 50 years, 50,000 homes have been built this way nationwide. Since 1996, Milford Housing Development Corporation has helped neighbors build nearly 200 homes. For West and her 3 children, the 2-bedroom apartment they're currently living in will soon be replaced by this home near Georgetown, built by Mom.
I'm hoping that 30 30, 40 years from now, you know, my kids, they'll be happy with the work that I've done, and you know, they want to go out and help other people do the same thing. They're my drive. So anything that you want to do, I'm proof that you can do. You can do anything that you want to do. And this right here is what I want to do.
This shared home building program is only available in rural areas, which in Delaware includes Sussex and most of Kent County, except for Dover. While anyone who meets income requirements can apply, it's not for the faint of heart. Future homeowners put in at least 30 hours per week performing some serious construction work. But the payoff of a new home is definitely worth it.
What do the Statue of Liberty, Capitol Building, and the White House have in common? If you answer Legos, you would be right. The Lego Americana Roadshow rolled into the Christiana Mall for its last stop on its 2015 tour. Lego master builders worked to recreate some of the most iconic buildings in America using only Legos. Come along for a tour, first experience style. Close to 1 million bricks were used in the construction of the models on display. The biggest one on display, the U.S. Capitol building, is 25 feet long, 10 feet tall, and took a team of 8 builders about 1,700 hours to complete. The display is up through November 1st at the Christiana Mall in Newark.
While those Lego bricks are a nice way to appreciate history, this next story probably won't make it into the next Lego show. A little over 50 years ago, a Delaware urban legend came to life. For years, residents in Selbyville in Sussex County had heard about a swamp monster. For a brief time, it became all too real. We finally got to the bottom of the tale last spring in our first Delaware special.
Don't enter. There are places and things there that you don't want to see and don't want to experience.
Who, what, when, and where can all be explained. But ever take a look around Delaware, shake your head, and wonder? Exhibit A, Fred Stevens.
Back in the 1920s, people started reporting hearing screams at night when they were out in the cypress swamps just west of Fenwick Island. And Some started claiming they not only heard screams, but they were chased by a big hairy creature. They heard tree branches snapping, and they would run for their lives.
It hit a fever pitch in 1964.
I'm Fred Stevens. I was a swamp monster 50 years ago.
Having grown up hearing tales of the swamp monster, Fred, then 21 years old, decided to cash in on the local legend, literally. At the encouragement of his friend, local newspaper employee Ralph Grapperhaus, Fred created a swamp monster costume using his Aunt Dorothy's raccoon fur coat, all with newspaper sales in mind.
And they jump out on them, you know. And some of them would quit before they got up to me, you know, back down the road of flying, you know.
The dirty journalism quickly got dirtier.
Some people come back and they throw chickens, you know, toward me and all, you know, to feed me, I guess. I don't know, but it's all mess of blood and chicken, and it was like good. This is the old mask.
Is that sort of the original?
The original mask, and I don't have much. I hear so many people, they used to tell their kids, you know, if you don't behave, we're going to take you back to the swamp life, and they'd be good, you know.
Tell me about this.
This was an old baseball bat, and I beat it up a lot, and then I put this spike in. I put it so it wouldn't hurt anybody if somebody picked it up, a kid or something. And I used that, you know, to scare people, you know.
Here's a novel approach to boosting circulation.
If you think about the fact that, that one of the two co-conspirators that launched this thing was a member of the Fourth Estate, was in the media, it's a great way to sell your newspaper, that's for sure.
Eventually, no amount of sales was worth the danger of Fred's unorthodox job.
We just had to quit because so many people were coming back and pick up trucks. And they were all about half drunk, and they were shooting their guns and all. And I said, I can't do this no more, because somebody shoots you, and they really didn't mean it or something, you know. So then we just quit, you know.
Long after Fred hung up his hat, or, well, mask, the legend continues.
I can tell you from my own experience as a child at the time that it was a story that was told widely and received attention, not just here in Sussex County, but in a more broader area.
The one thing I can't imagine today is having the media pump up a story just to sell newspapers. That would never, ever happen.
Of course not. Now, you have another special coming up. Can you share some of the highlights?
Yeah, it's called Delaware 2, and we take a look at more things around the state that people might not know about, like the way you can get from Delaware to New Jersey without crossing the Delaware River. Also, we'll examine why are license plates sometimes worth more, maybe as much as 5 and 6 times more, as much as the cars that they're driven on. It's Delaware 2. It's on Monday, November 16th, 9 p.m. on WHYY-TV.
And that's just a little over 2 weeks away. Now, next week, we take a trip into Delaware wine country. You've heard about the wine and ale tours, and it's becoming a big part of our economy. We make it our content partner story next week with Delaware Today magazine.
That is first for this week. We thank you, as always, for watching. For Avi Wolfman-Arndt, Mark Eichman, and Shirley Min, I'm Nichelle Poston. Have a great week.